Okay, so we are pivoting to our next session. I'm happy to welcome William Shealy. He's Senior Systems Engineer, Federal at Verizon, to chat with me from the industry side.
Thank you.
All right. Hey. So, lots to sort of unpack there in the first 20 minutes there, but for these next few minutes with us, we've heard a lot about AI use cases and models, policy. Underneath that, you really need to look at sort of the networks that are powering that infrastructure.
Absolutely.
AI, all of us know, is driving massive increases in that demand for data, and so that infrastructure really needs to keep up. So start us off, what are some of the trends you're seeing in federal government right now that is that you think is driving the conversation around AI?
So if you'd asked me this question 18 months ago, I would have said modernization, transformation, right. And that's still at the forefront of what we're looking for, but reduction in force in the federal government has really taken a toll on who's doing what. The technology drain, brain drain, so to speak, has left. So, we're looking at where can we integrate AI and different models in management technologies to better serve the federal government so that the burden doesn't always rely on them to do it with their reduction in force and things. So I think that's one of the big things. Of course, we're still seeing the modernization part coming in, and things like, part of this is AI and SD-WAN. 10 years ago, SD-WAN was supposed to, let's put your lesser traffic on cheaper infrastructure type of thing. That really didn't go anywhere because as the federal government found out, I still have to secure that connection because, oops, it's going across the internet. And the cost savings wasn't there. So SD-WAN kind of stagnated in the federal government for a while. And now we're seeing better integration of SD-WAN with things like SASE and whatnot, security policies that need to be enforced, better bandwidth utilization. Now we're seeing the surgence of SD-WAN and what it can truly do with AI.
Fantastic. AI, of course, as I mentioned, it generates so much amounts of data. So tell us about how can agencies better route and use that data when you're thinking about some of these capabilities and tools?
So again, that's where with fewer technologists and what in place, you're going to have to start relying on the AI engine models to where can I best utilize my traffic? Which data centers are best going to serve that? And utilizing, secure interconnects or direct interconnects within the different like Azure, Amazon, whatever you want to talk about it, infrastructures for your data sets. So I think that's where we're going to start to see some of the shifts in better utilizing better platforms, so to speak. As a new platform comes out that may offer higher efficiencies for a particular government agency's mission. Everybody's mission is going to be different. There's no one size fits all. So, and one data center is not going to be a one size fits all. So you're going to see some of that. And there's going to be some instances where a public data center, FedRAMP approved, may not fulfill the mission needs. We're starting to see maybe a shift back to the old term hosted data center, where it's a private instantation of their data residing in a secure enclave and whatnot.
Verizon, I think for all of us, is a pretty well-known vendor.
But we're more than the phone company these
days.
And that's what I always have to try to, even my neighbors are like, hey, can you fix my cell phone? And it's like, I can take a look at it, but Verizon's more than just Fios and cellular service these days. So Verizon, people sometimes forget, we evolved back from the Bell Labs days. So we're still at the forefront of innovating technology. We may not come out and trumpet it like a lot of other folks because we use it, in our own network first before it becomes available to the public. So a lot of people don't realize that the technology they're riding on today, we've probably already had 10 years ago. It's just now coming up. So that's one of the big distinguishers always have to make to people. It's like, oh, you're Verizon, hey, yeah, I've got your cell plan, or I've got Fios at home. It's great, I got my 1 gig connection, and it's cheap. And I won't diverge too much on that, but one of the things we're seeing within some instances of the federal government is they're saying, hey, I can get a gig connection at my house for $99. Why can't I do that for the federal government? Well, it all comes back to how secure do you want your connection? So, we're starting to see some of the shift back and forth of better securing internet connections. Internet doesn't have SLAs, and the government comes out and says, hey, we need a 5 nines, reliability and availability on this connection. The internet can kind of get there sometimes, but not always, as we've seen outages recently of even in, your own data sets, the outage, and it lasts for 6 hours. Can you afford to do that? So.
Absolutely. Talk through what Verizon is doing in sort of the network and proper infrastructure planning to support some of the increased uses of AI, and I guess what are some of the conversations you're having around that with your partners?
So the thing, with every telecom is we typically do 20-year planning. So, something you might see in the movie from the 70s or 80s or whatever on AI, we were already, it's like, hey, that's a good idea. What can we do to make our network like that? So things like, application-aware routing and whatnot, we've been doing for 15 years or more, especially through our optical networks and autonomous switching. People don't realize that, we've taken switchovers from, 100 milliseconds down to 20 milliseconds, which is pretty much imperceivable for most people with their data set. So one of the big things we're starting to look at is more agentic type modeling that looks at looking at it, thinking about it, and doing it. The regular generative AI models, it presents you the information, but you still have to do something with it. With agentic models, now you're looking at being able to not, and I apologize if there's vendors in here, but using more than one vendor's particular model for AI or their network delivery systems, because not every vendor may have the latest and greatest or the best that works with a particular agency's needs, and you need to be able to integrate that into your network set. Well, an agentic model will do that because it's looking at a larger data set and then populating it and managing it into the overall solution. And the other thing we're looking at, and this is something, I don't know how many people know what the butterfly effect is, that's talked about a lot in weather models, a butterfly flapping its wings in Thailand affects the snowstorm in New England. Well, you can apply that to network availability and the same effect. Now, with an AI model, you're looking at millions of data sets all coming together and presenting different models of preparatory type situations that you can adjust your network bandwidth at a particular location. Hey, there might be a hurricane coming up through here. So what are the effects of it? Not only where they're affected, but other areas as well, because guess what? In that area is a data center that people, 1,000 miles away are using. What do you do to reroute traffic ahead of time to support something like that? So that's some of the things we're starting to look at, and better utilizing things like, our 5G infrastructure, wireless. People are like, well, wireless isn't that reliable. And it's more reliable than people think. Everybody has their commercials. We're the best network, type of thing. And everybody's network, is starting to come up levelizing. And Verizon's realizing that everybody's network's starting to become on a equalized playing field. What can we do better to make the experience or whatever better for the end user by allowing applications to flow through better and things like that. So That's some of the things we're looking at.
Lots of things to think through, especially when you hear from government, the increasing push to make things more flexible and vendor agnostic and things like that.
Well, that's some of the things we're also seeing. We're starting to get, some of the contracts, these 10-year GWAC contracts are coming out, and they came out with 10-year-old technology from way back. We still have to support TDM in some locations, and that's an aging technology that's going away, but it works, and that's what the government keeps, it works, and I don't have anything to replace it. What am I going to do? And I think with AI, we might be able to start looking at better ways of coming up with solutions that let them do that.
Sure.
So that's.
Any tip you'll leave us with today in terms of the growth in AI and some of the things to think
Boy,
about?
I know this is a big AI-centric crowd, but the one thing that my company does is we actually have a program called Responsible AI. So it's a look before you leap type of thing. So I'll kind of leave with, there's the Jurassic Park movie. It's if we could, if we should. That's what I'll leave. It's one of those. We're not ready for Skynet yet, I don't think. So. That type of mentality. So that's what I'll kind of leave with.
All right. Well, fantastic. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you.